What's up guys, got another tutorial, got another one from Kyle here. So as always, links down in the description, so if you like his work you can go give him a follow down there. And coming down, I personally really like his work. I really like the use of the light he achieves in his photos, uses filters very well, and we are going to be working with this shot right here, trying to recreate the edit the best we can. So yeah, he achieves a very cinematic look to his shots that I really like. So remember, links down in the description guys, and let's get into Lightroom, see what we can do. Over here we have the edited photo from his Instagram and the raw unedited file over here. So first thing I want to do is straighten the horizon. It's pretty off there. So if we come down, I'm going to do it down here and just shift the horizon like that, about straight there. And then I'm just going to mess around, try to add a bit of contrast into the image. You can see the shadows, they're much darker there, same with the tones in the road there. So let's add some contrast, bring down the exposure, up the shadows, because those blacks get dark very fast. They're quite harsh, those blacks, compared to the rest of the lighting in the image. So those shadows are quite far away from the blacks. Let's drop the highlights. And you might think I've dropped the highlights too much and we've got too much detail way in the background out there, like this one. This one you can't quite see the detail, so you might think keep the highlights up like this. But I'm planning on coming in with a filter to add in a bit more haze on this side of the image. As you can see, there's a bit of haze there. So I'm going to bring the highlights right down, and you can get that detail back, way back there. And then on the left side, I'll add in a filter, and it will look a bit more like that later, like his one. Okay, let's keep those whites down, touch. And then we're going to add a lot of contrast and pop with the curves, but just before that. So we want to keep this one really soft and hazy. So I will come in with a filter later out there, but even throughout the entire image, I think we want to drop the clarity a lot. And then saturation. We'll add in a lot of contrast and color contrast with the curves now. So I'll just do the curves. Okay, so that's the curves done, and I was just having a bit of trouble. They came out a bit yellow, the curves, or green, the curves did. So I just quickly changed, say, the yellows, which is pretty much the whole image, just made them a bit more orange, and then lifted the luminance there just to compensate. I didn't quite get the curves perfect. Generally, you'll want the colors to look the same as before you started the curve, but it's quite hard to tell what color they were before. No, we're done pretty well. So do the curves, and then yeah, try to add a little bit of the color you want. Maybe you want it a bit warmer in the highlights, So you would, for example, take blue out of the highlights and you get warmer. So yep, so that's the curves. If we go to RGB curves, so you can tell there's quite a bit of flatness in the blacks there. So let's just do that again. If we get rid of this point here, we lose that little bit of fade in the darker spots, so you can just see in there. So let's move on, and then otherwise I've kept it pretty flat because you can tell our sky isn't overly bright back there. So flat all the way the rest. Okay, let's move down to RGB and let's try to get this, HSL, and let's get it pretty close. So let's start with the obvious tones. So the oranges and the yellows are going to be the main ones we want to focus on. We want this nice, rich, almost red to the sand. We started off with quite a greeny yellow. So shifting the yellows and the oranges to more of a darker tone. So go about there for the oranges. And it's quite hard to tell. They're pretty much affecting the same area, but just play around and you'll sort of figure out that they do kind of slightly affect it differently. Yellows. And we'll drop the saturation of these oranges. There's hardly any reds in there. If we go down, let's lift these oranges up a bit more. Okay. Sharpening this image is going to be a bit softer because I think it's a screenshot off Instagram. So this one's going to look sharper anyway, but I'll add in a bit of sharpening anyway. Might just come back up and brighten it a touch. Okay, so as I said before, I want to come in with a filter and brighten the left side of this image. Get that nice haze that he's got coming across the image. Okay, so if we go to our filters, and I've already placed the filter, but you can't quite see it because the screen's a bit too big. So it's over here, and a large portion of the image. What I'm going to do is up the exposure. And drop the clarity because we want a nice soft haze to it. And then maybe just adding in a bit of haze there. So clarity sort of does a bit of a haze as well. And just a bit of dehaze. And that's about it. If we go back. Now I think that's pretty close. I'm pretty happy with that, but there's one thing. He's obviously taken out all these tire marks in the sand. And to do that, we'd want to use Photoshop. So what you do is come up here. It's going to be cut off from the recording, but you go up to Help. And in the search, you type in Photoshop. And then you go down and click on Edit in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so working in Photoshop, duplicate your background so you keep your background locked there so you always have access to the original. And the tool you want is clone stamp, and then bring down the opacity so you get a nice blend to the image. And what you want to do is just press Option, click, sample the ground here and place it across. And then you want to keep clicking and resampling from different areas so it doesn't look the same, so you keep a natural looking to the pattern of the sand. So sampling from over here and then clicking, and it's sampling from that little cross every time you click. So just need to keep doing this. Okay, so when you're happy with what you've done, just go up to the top, click File, Save, and then it brings it right back here automatically into Lightroom. So here's the one before you went into Photoshop and the one after. So now there's our reference here, and that's what we've got now. So yeah, that's a bit about it, guys. Comment down below who you guys want to see so I can reach out to them on Instagram, ask them to send in a photo and do a tutorial on them. But it really helps when you comment people that don't have too many followers but have great images. That way they will send in an image. And yeah, so if you like these tutorials, guys, check out the presets. I'm really happy with the feedback from them, how they're changing your guys' Instagram feeds. And yeah, if you guys are after footage, 1DX Mark II footage for color grading, perhaps using Luts on, learning to color grade, I'm now selling flat footage you can practice on and use Luts on and know what it's like to color grade with the very best high quality shots. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll be catching you in the next one. Cheers.